Welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, brought to you by TournamentPokerEdge.com, the only podcast dedicated exclusively to poker tournament strategy. Now here's your host, Clayton Fletcher.
Hello once again, everybody, and welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, sponsored by ACR Poker, where this Sunday we're back with the $1,000 TPE free roll. There's a link in the description of this podcast. You guys got to get into the Discord, the TPE Discord, where you can receive instructions on how to join the free roll this week. We're giving away $1,000. Absolutely free, courtesy of ACR Poker. My name is Clayton Fletcher, and I am back in New York City, where I belong. I was in Minnesota. I headlined at a club called Goonies in Rochester, Minnesota, and then I played a couple of events in Chicagoland at Hammond, Indiana's Horseshoe, which we can talk about a little bit with our special guest today. And let's put a big emphasis, a highlight, if you will, on special, because she is having a year to remember, and it's only the first week of March. This lady has already won a Global Poker Index Award for Content Creator of the Year. She has final tabled, I don't even know how many tournaments, in places like Tunica, Mississippi, and her home of Austin, Texas. She's also appearing here on the podcast without her bestie for the first time. Caitlin Comeskey, welcome back to the show. How you been, Caitlin?
Oh, I've been so good, Clayton. It's good to be back. I always love to see you. You know, us poker comedy people, we got to stick together. So I'm happy to come and hang out.
Yeah, I mean, you always have such great positive vibes and good energy all around you all the time, but especially when all you do is win, win, win. What's it like to be a crusher in so many different states already in the year 2024?
Oh, it's been so nice. The tide really turned around for me in December when I was in Las Vegas for the Win Series. But before that, I had gone through a really long drought where I hadn't scored anything big. I was running really bad in cash. It was probably like a 9-month sort of like a soft downswing, but I mean a significant downswing relative to the stakes I was playing. I was probably downswinging around 50K. So it was significant and it was stressful, and it's just been so nice to get relief financially. I feel like I can get my nails done again. I can go get like eyelash extensions. I don't freak out every time I have to buy a plane ticket, or when I owe someone money, it's not like a huge thing in my head. I just like send it and don't think about it. So just the financial relief of it has just been like huge, because I've been living like a dream life for like the last 2 years in terms of the opportunities I've been getting and things I've been getting to do. But of course, when your primary source of income is poker and you're losing a lot, it's really painful. So when that tide finally turns and the faith you had in yourself and the hard work you put in finally starts to swing back the other way, it's really nice.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about that hard work. I mean, it is hard work when you're on a $50,000 downswing. I mean, honestly, I don't care who you are, unless you're, just a high roller that plays, 100Ks every week. $50,000 is a lot of money to virtually everybody in the poker world. What's it like trying to work your way through that? How do you stay positive? Like, what kind of advice would you give for one of my listeners who might be also experiencing a similar downswing? Like, how do we know that there's light at the end of the tunnel that's not a train?
I definitely think you got to keep your headspace right and not the things that we all pay lip service in poker, but in the practice of being in a downswing is really hard to remember. Like, I'm not always trying to win every pot. I'm trying to make the best decision at every crossroads I come to. Not making decisions based on things that are superstitious or emotional, and just really having faith in myself is the biggest. Just sort of that supernatural, like, you can't teach it. For some people it's religion, for some people it's like spirituality, but just like that self-belief and resilience is not anything that you'll find in poker software, or the answers aren't going to be there. It's within yourself.
Yeah. Well, I think things have turned around for you, because I noticed there hasn't been an Ace Holes podcast in over a month, and maybe you've been wisely distancing yourself from the toxic energy that is Nikki Lima. Is that possible? Like, that's what's been the cause of your turnaround here? What do you think?
Oh no, hardly. I do. So in January, I really wanted to stay put and I didn't want to travel at all. I'd been traveling so much last year. So we decided to do 2 remote episodes, which I was really proud of and they were really fun. But the remote episodes, you don't have a special guest. They don't hit as hard in the algorithm. And we've been struggling with consistency just because I decided not to move to Vegas. I like living in Austin. I like my life here in Austin with Lodge as my home club, being centrally located in Texas. I can make it to Oklahoma and all the major stops in Texas. I've already played $2 million guarantee, or maybe just one so far this year, but there's like $1 million guarantee happening in Texas several times a year now, which just continues to heat up the tournament scene. And the cash games are going to be monumentally better in this part of the country than they are going to be in Vegas for obvious reasons. Nikki and I actually have a meeting tomorrow to discuss what we're going to do before the series starts. But once the series starts, we'll definitely be going back to our regular scheduled programming because I'm spending the whole summer in Vegas. I've secured my housing. I'm getting my schedule together and my backing together. So going to have a great summer of both ace holes and tournament poker. And tomorrow, Nikki and I are going to decide in the interim what we want to do. But we're both going to Jacksonville, Florida on a run good stop. And we're both going on the WPT voyage, the cruise.
Excellent.
Yeah, so we'll definitely be able to make some content there, and we're going to figure out what to do over the next couple of weeks. But yeah, I was really grateful that Nikki gave me that space to go travel and make money, and now I feel like I have more energy and inspiration to put back into the creative endeavors. But everybody needs a break. You can't burn it at both ends for forever and ever. Eventually, you've got to make choices and prioritize things, and some things get put on hold temporarily. But it's definitely a temporary hold, and both Nikki and I are very dedicated to continuing Ace Holes as a channel and collaborating together.
All right. Well, I was hoping to get you to talk some trash about her, but it sounds like you two are still really close besties. So that's
yeah, we still like each other. It's really boring. I should probably yes and you and tell you she's like a filthy liar and manipulator, but I don't know. I've never had a girlfriend that was as close to a sister that I really felt so connected to on a friendship level, but then also just mutual respect as both a poker player and a comedian content creator. I'm just I gave a tearful thank you during my GPI award speech, and that was 100% authentic. I'm so grateful for her. But yeah, excuse me. Screw her.
Yeah, well, anyway, I can just feel all my listeners being like, this is boring. We want some dirt and some gossip, but that's okay.
I know. I don't got it.
This is not the right podcast for that. I literally never get into all that. And of course, I'm only joking. Nikki Limo is also one of my favorite people in poker. And I hope to come back and hang out with you guys again, maybe play some more Jeopardy on the Ace Holes podcast, which is always so fun.
100%. We got to have you back. We got to think of a more challenging game for you. You won that too easy, I think.
Yeah, I really crushed her. I crushed her dreams. So anyway, first off, congrats, major congrats on your GPI award. What was it like? Was that your first big award ceremony? I first took notice of you when you were doing impressions of everyone from Joey Ingram to Mike Postle to Veronica Brill. And a lot of us kind of discovered you from those sketches that you did where you were imitating all those characters. Is this really the first time that your work has been recognized in that way?
Well, actually, I won a GPI award last year as well.
Wait, see, I should have done more research. I didn't know that. That didn't come up when I Googled you. Wait a second. So this is
Last year, I was the rising star in content creation.
Yeah, that was Rookie of the Year. This is MVP, right? It's a whole different.
Yeah. No, it was super nice to be. I got 3 nominations. I shared all the same categories that Marley got her 3 nominations for. We've supported each other. Last year, today actually she released our first video that we collaborated on. I did a little guest star in hers, and I wrote one that she's going to be guest starring in coming up. So I love collaborating with my friends, and she just like Nikki, is just so smart and talented. So it was really special to share that with her. And then I was competing. I didn't really think I had a shot at the category. I ended up winning short form creation because I was going up against Wolfgang and Greg Goes All In. And both of them and Marley have more views than I do, especially Wolfgang. He was the first YouTuber to make it to 1 million subscribers. So like kudos to him. He's doing incredible work. Then he is a lot more consistent with his posting. So I didn't know if I had a shot in that category just because it's an award where you're voted on by a panel of your peers, and there's a ranking system, and you never know like what criteria people think is most valuable. Whether it's like, oh, this person brought a lot of novices to poker, new eyeballs to poker, we need to recognize that, or whether this, girl is clearly like a talented impressionist and comedian, and she makes me laugh, I want to recognize that. So I didn't know, but it was really special and humbling to be able to get up at like an industry event as an unsponsored pro and be able to like advertise for myself and audition for new opportunities was the part of it that was so cool for me. Just a really special event. I know there was a lot of like Dermonstraying afterwards of people being like, this is 2 industry awards, or we're not recognizing poker enough. People had a lot to say and chirp, but at the end of the day, it was a really special night for me, and I was incredibly honored.
And you should be. And you know what? The thing about poker, I've been around poker for over 20 years. They're always going to have something to say, no matter what happens, whoever wins, whoever doesn't win, whoever gets nominated, how many awards there are for this or that, it just doesn't matter. They're always going to have something to say. So you just kind of have to block out the haters and enjoy the moment. It's a chance for the industry to come together and celebrate everything that's going on in poker, whether it's on the felt or on camera or on a podcast or whatever else there is. It all kind of works together to create this world that we all inhabit, which also opens up opportunities such as WPT voyages, which you mentioned you're going on at the end of the month, and all these other things. Like, this is important. Like the media side and the content creation side and the entertainment side of poker is just as important as what's going on the felt. For it to become a spectator sport, for people to care about it, for people to have any interest in who's winning. Like you make me laugh, so I enjoy you, right? And when I'm going on my Instagram feed and I notice that you're posting that you're at a final table somewhere in Tunica, because you've already made me laugh and because we've developed a friendship, I'm rooting for you now. And this is what the power of streaming is, and what the purpose of being a YouTuber or a podcaster or whatever. It's like it's at its core, this is a solo project. But when you have a squad, or when you have fans, or when you have people that are rooting for you, it feels less like that and more like we're all on the same team. And everyone's like, go, Caitlin, go. And, you took it down. So you took down the Global Poker Award for content creation, and you also took down a tournament in Tunica. So tell us about that.
So I've been a Run Good ambassador for my 3rd season as a Run Good ambassador. I did my first stop in Tulsa last year, early spring. So I've been to many cities. I've been to Kansas City, Council Bluffs, and I'm getting ready to go to Jacksonville in a couple weeks here. So Tunica was the first time going to Tunica. I usually fly to the stops. I've never driven anywhere, but I decided to drive the full 10 hours, which was a lot, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, honestly. From Austin to Tunica, you go up through Texas as half of the journey, and then you go through Arkansas, and then right at the end, you go through the corner of Tennessee to dump out in northern Mississippi. And I really enjoyed the environment there. I mean, I have respect for Horseshoe Tunica, so I'm going to find a classy way to say this. The food was not Michelin star rated. It's definitely like an older property. There's some fun quirks about how like some of the patrons will bring cigarettes into the bathrooms. Like it's just like these fun little quirks. But because of that, it's a really light and friendly environment. Like one of the smaller side events I was playing, I looked around the table and like 4 or 5 people were drinking like mixed drinks with liquor, like not just beers, but like liquor. And I was like, this is my people. Like, this is fun. It's dope. It's people from either Memphis, Tennessee, or, Mississippi. So it's like polite, sweet people who like to talk. There are not a lot of headphones at the table. So it easily became one of my favorite Run Good stops, just because the environment was so positive and great and friendly. And I had success right off the bat in the deep stack event. I bagged pretty decent. The Run Good starting stacks are a little shorter, so I bagged about 275, which is a pretty chunky stack, probably in the top 30%, I don't know, of the bagged stacks. And I made a really deep run. I made it to the final table, all the way to a podium finish. I got third. At the end, the chip leader just had like 60% of the chips, and there was just not much I could do. I flopped a flush draw, and we had to give it a shot to see if I could get the 18 up top. But I ultimately got third for $8,000, which was like a really nice start to the trip. And then the next day, I played the ladies' $300 event, and it was a 10K guarantee, but it ended up getting, I think, closer to 16 or 17. I don't know, but up top was 5K, which was a pretty chunky for a Run Good Ladies event. And I was very happy about that. And I was able to final table and make it all the way to the end and win the whole tournament and get my very first Run Good ring. And that was actually my very first tournament win too. I've gotten second in a couple of 500K guarantees for more money, of course. But this was my first place, like winner's photo, the whole shebang.
That is so fantastic. And I like how you call it a podium finish. I think it'd be fun in poker if we did have, like, just they do like in the Olympics and gymnastics, second, like you would have gotten a bronze medal for your third place.
Oh, heck yeah. I'm not the only one that calls it podium finish in poker for sure. But yeah, I've like first, second, third. That's podium, right?
I love that. Yeah, because your first goal is to be in the money. Your next goal is to final table. And then your next goal is to podium finish. And then, of course, the top goal is the gold bracelet. So, exactly. Yeah, that's it. I love it. That's really great. I have a comment. We actually have a few viewers. I'm streaming this on Twitch. I usually don't do that when I record a podcast, but because I had Caitlin here today, I wanted to do something a little special. And we have a comment from Jono Wise Guy who says, "Thank you, Caitlin, for the thoughts on your downturn. Nice to know we are not alone." Yeah.
No, you're not alone.
I guess Jono's going through it himself. Hang in there, Jono, wise guy. It does turn around with hard work, perseverance, and just, as Caitlin mentioned, you want to believe in yourself and keep trusting your game. It's very hard when you're running so bad. It just feels like I'm never going to win again. And then all of a sudden you just start binking everything in sight.
Well, it's so easy when you're on a downswing to cold tilt, like the difference between hot and cold tilt. When you hot and you just kind of blast it off, but when you're cold and you're just like, you got a little traumatized and you're just a little trigger shy, and all of a sudden you start making all these ridiculous hero folds that are completely inappropriate and you wouldn't have made if you hadn't, bricked 10 buy-ins right before that. But I think continuing to play the same way even when the results don't match is just like sort of that, like, put your blinders on, like faith of a blind man kind of a thing. Yeah,
and it's really hard to do. It's much easier said than done. I mean, we've all been there. Anybody who's been around poker for any length of time knows how hard it is to play your best when you're losing. It's much easier to win when you're winning. It's easier to play good poker when you're winning because you can really focus on the decisions. If you're up 40K for the year and you're playing in a $600, Run Good tournament in Tunica, and you really don't, it doesn't feel that important. Like, I don't care if I lose $600 if I'm up 40,000, right? But if you're down 50, every buy-in feels like, it's hard. It's hard for anyone to kind of keep your eye on the prize and still make the correct decision, even if it might be a high variance one when you are losing. So, I commend you on being able to play through it. The only way to get out of a slump is to keep playing and play your best, and that's it. So that looks like what you've done, and hopefully you can just leave that downswing behind you, and in the
rest
of the year.
I plan on having a really long poker career, so I know it's not my last one. It was my first one, first major one that persisted any amount of time, but I think to be playing poker as primary income for 3 years and have 1 6-month downswing, I feel like that's tragically ordinary,
Yeah, it's very common. I mean, early in my career, maybe my 3rd or 4th year of playing, a lot of poker, I played 36 tournaments in a row without cashing, not even a min cash. 36 in a row. That was really painful. I have come close to replicating that since then, but that's still my record that I hope to never beat. But everybody that listens to this podcast knows that I'm a more aggressive player. I don't really respect ICM that much, and I tend to blast off. I can punt a stack of any size at any time. So it's more likely that somebody like me would go through a longer downswing than somebody like you, right? Because your playing style is naturally a little more GTO, a little bit tighter, and a little bit more respectful of the.
It honestly depends on the lineup. I still like if you were to say you have to choose whether you're more exploitative or more GTO, even though I've spent a lot of time in the charts and the drills, I still identify as an exploitative player first and foremost. Like playing GTO doesn't really super help me in Tunica when nobody folds anything. Like you have to give up so much more often. Like so many times I'm checking down like queen highs or like 8 high candidates that like if I'm playing in a different field, I'm all in, and I feel good about that decision. But there are just certain fields where it's like you have to adjust to the field. And in Tunica, I didn't really get to bluff that much. In the ladies event, once I built up a stack, I was certainly like opening a lot of hands, but just like, I don't know, it might surprise you how little you have to bluff when you're in towns where nobody folds.
Yeah, totally. No, we were talking about this on the podcast when I was recently in Florida, and I thought if I'm in Florida and I'm bluffing, I'm probably making a big mistake, right? Because there aren't that many players in Florida who are capable of making some big fold. Most of them are very loose. There's a lot of drinking, like you mentioned, people drinking and having fun, and they don't really approach poker in the way like, oh, I really want to make like the good disciplined lay down here. The philosophy is more, I want to know what she's got.
And it's so crushing to make so many pre-flop mistakes. Like there's situations where it's like I'm in the cutoff and this is a 3-better fold at any other table. But here, if I pop it up, I'm still going to be taking it 4 or 5 ways, and we're early in the tournament and everybody is so deep. I'm just not motivated to do that. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So we've been talking a lot about GTO Wizard here on the podcast. I've been using it lately. We have an affiliate code if anybody's interested in joining GTO Wizard. It's a great tool, even for somebody like me that still uses Skype. And I'm not like a high-tech guy or anything, but even I could figure out how to use this thing. You can practice different spots. You can plug in hands you played online. You can really study, learn, and practice, and just evaluate your game. You can save 10% on your first purchase if you click the link in the description of this podcast and join GTO Wizard. Then the first time you decide to buy something there, you save 10% by using our special affiliate code. And so what about you, Caitlin? You said you study GTO spots. Do you use GTO Wizard or some other tools, or how do you do it?
Yes. So I got my fundamentals down with some one-on-one coaching my second year in poker, focusing mostly on 100 big blind cash.
Right.
I played thousands and thousands of hands on ACR, just drilling in those heuristics at 10NL and 15L.
Sure.
And then I no longer work with a coach one-on-one, but I am a GTO user. So sort of whenever I'm watching reality TV or listening to podcasts, I have GTO Wizard up and I'm doing the drill function. You can customize your own drills if there's like a particular hole in your game. And I use that for a few spots, but I honestly think they have pre-made drills that GTO Wizard has put up there, and I use those. I use both the cash and the MTT field, but I'm still learning the most about MTT. Right now I'm sort of zeroed in on blind v blind play at various stack depths. I think that was sort of my biggest hole still that remains, where I just really need to get the limp calls, the limp raises, the traps, the like pre-flop. I need to lock it down. We're getting there. Yeah, that's what my current focus is.
Yeah, it's really cool, and it's such a great tool. And so what I'll do is, you're going to tell us probably a hand or two that you played out there in Tunica that you were way off from GTO Wizard. What any GTO strategy would say, because you were exploiting drunk opponents who never fold. And so then what I'll do is next week I'll review the hand that you tell me about today on GTO Wizard and talk about how you're just a luck box who doesn't know how to play poker. How's that sound?
Exactly. Perfect. I don't have any hands from Tunica. I didn't write down my hands in Tunica because I was half drunk and talking the whole time. But I do when I was in the 10K WPT. I was taking copious notes.
Oh, that's even better. Yeah, no, that's even... No, it's okay. I mean, whatever hand you want to go through, I just like to give my listeners a break from hearing about all of my personal experiences. And like whenever I have a guest, I just want to hear any tournament hand that you have for us. We're happy to hear it. So what's it from?
Um, let's see. It's from the main event 10K buy-in WPT championship from December.
Right.
I had won my seat in a satellite, so I was actually free rolling the event practically, and I had all of myself. And spoiler alert, I ended up making it very deep into day 3. I got 188th place for $27,000.
Wow, not bad for a satellite winner, huh? That's
That's
fantastic.
That's all my money, mine for me.
Sometimes it's nice not to have backers, namely when you win.
All right, let's see. Let's find an interesting hand. But no, here we go.
Yeah, so I also was out there for that WPT championship. You guys remember we were talking about that. It was in December, like right around the holidays. They had a 40 million guarantee, which they actually ended up almost hitting, but not quite hitting. I think they missed it by about $2 million. So a lot of people were, really excited about kind of the overlay. A lot of places they guarantee some tiny amount. Like, Caitlin already mentioned the ladies event that she recently played had a 10K guarantee, and then they had 16 or 17,000 in there anyway. So it's very rare nowadays for a big major live event to have an overlay. So this one did, and I think that was very exciting for a lot of the players that were involved.
All right. So this hand is from the beginning of day 3. The blinds were 10K, 15K, 15K. Okay. I have 420K in my stack. I'm the effective stack.
Okay.
And the button opens to 35K. And I defend ace 10 offsuit.
Okay, so we're in the big blind here with ace.
In the big blind.
All right. So, I mean, we have less than 30 big blinds, right? Any thought, any inkling to maybe 3-bet this hand, or is this just a pure call for you?
I think ace 10 a lot of times in these spots are the hands that I want to keep like my strong calling range intact with. I think ace queen, ace king, obviously I'm 3-betting all day, shoving sometimes, but ace 10 off, I think it just, for me, just the charts that I've looked at and stuff, it's usually a hand that they keep as a call, even in wide range, just because you need strong hands. And of course, you're raising up a lot of your pairs on a lot of your suited broadways, a lot of your suited 10s and jacks. And I find that this hand is best to remain a call. That's my personal preference.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I think at this stack depth, I don't really want to 3-bet and have to get it in. We are ahead of the button's opening range. Obviously, ace 10 is well ahead of that overall range. But when we 3-bet and he shoves, I'm not too happy to call off. So I think sometimes it's better to just, like you say, you want to keep some hands that are strong. And then that way you keep his bluffs in. He's going to have any ace X, right, among other hands.
Yeah.
So if you happen to flop top pair, he won't really be able to put you on it because a lot of your strong ace X will be 3-betting, as you mentioned. So it's kind of nice to be able to kind of trap with this hand and end up playing a big pot for all the chips after you make that pair of aces. But obviously, if you do happen to flop an ace, I don't think the plan should be to try to fold it. Not when you've already put in a couple big blinds and you only had, 27-ish to start with. So, yeah. All right. So what happens on the flop?
The flop is 9-5-4 rainbow.
So no love for Caitlin on that flop.
I check my option. Opponent goes with the same bet size, 35K.
Okay. So it's 35 into how big of a pot now? 10, 12?
It would have been 70, 80, like about 100K.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, you're getting so it's about a third of the pot. So you're getting about 4-1 on your money. You probably have Yeah, I mean, we could. I don't like check raising here. I'm assuming you didn't fold. This wouldn't be much of a hand to discuss on a podcast.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, if you did fold, I don't think I would blame you too much because it's just hard for us to really pick up any equity on the turn. Even if we are ahead right now, this is like such a double barrel spot for the button that, you could make kind of a tight exploitative fold.
Oh, definitely, because it's like a lot of our wheel aces and our middling weaker aces have connected with the board more so than ace 10. And we have better aces to float with in our range with like an ace jack even. So, and,
I like check raising when I have a chance to pick up decent equity on the turn. Like maybe if there were two of our suit, and so we could pick up a flush draw on the turn or something. I feel like check raising with this is just going to put us into an inflated pot from out of position that I'm not really even going to love it if I hit a 10 on the turn. So, yeah, I guess for me, I think calling is okay, and I also think folding is okay. I think check raising is clever and creative, but if that's what you did, I think you can really get into some trouble on a lot of turn cards. So what did you end up doing?
I ended up calling, and I'm trying to remember. This was like a stacked table. Just by the way, I was like at a table I was intimidating by. I believe this hand was not against either of these people, but Vogelsang was at the table. Chris Moorman was at the table. Like, it was pretty foreboding. But anyway, that's just like a fun side note. I just remembered like, oh yeah, that would have been this table. And then there were two like Crusher Americans that made like final three tables that I don't know their names, but it was a very stacked table.
Well, once word got out that there might be an overlay, people really showed up for that tournament. They came out of the woodwork from all over, LA. I knew people from LA that were driving there to play the last day one and, kind of registering at the last possible minute so they could jump in. And yeah, so I'm not surprised that there were a lot of crushers at your table. I mean, Christoph Vogelsang, I mean, he's probably still in the top 5 or 10 in the world. And, obviously ACR Pro, Chris Moorman at your table is never a welcome sight. I don't want to play against either of those guys. But, yeah, I mean, you have to find spots to, maybe accept a little more variance. If you feel like you're an underdog at a table, kind of a general piece of advice is you should be more willing to accept variance when you don't feel like you have an edge over your opponents. And at this table, no offense, Caitlin, but I don't think you did. Not against these guys anyway.
I think that's fair.
All right, so what happens?
So we go to the turn, ace of spades.
Okay, so we finally make a pair, and the board was 9 low. What was it?
9-5-4.
9-5-4, and now we make a pair of aces on the turn. All right, so now that we have checked and called a c-bet on the flop, and now we make top pair with a decent kicker, we could like just donk lead here on 4th Street. I don't think it's terrible. We're always going to get action from pretty much all of his value range that he bets on the flop. He's going to call at least one bet on the turn. It's hard to believe you have an ace. You have one of the few aces you're going to have that you didn't 3-bet pre-flop with that stack. So if your opponent's a thinking player, which I'm assuming in a $10,000 World Poker Tour Championship he was, he's probably going to not be a believer right away, like those times when he has a hand like, let's say, pocket jacks, right? So he's c-bet for value on the flop. Now you come out of nowhere and start betting on the turn. I think it's a chance to make some money here because if you check the turn and he has a hand like pocket jacks, he's unlikely to bet again when the ace hits on the turn, right? So I don't know. My instinct is maybe I put in a little value bet here, maybe about half the pot, a little less, maybe like 40%, and just see if we can get paid for our pair of aces. My plan would be to fold to a raise, I guess, though. I don't think we can really just like hang in there with ace 10, can we?
No, I wouldn't want to. It wouldn't feel good.
Yeah, so for that reason, maybe checking is better because then you can just kind of let him maintain the lead in the hand. It doesn't seem too suspicious. You don't have to worry about getting bluff raised off of your ace 10, which is still going to be good sometimes when he does raise. Yeah, and he's always going to value bet all of his worst ace X, and he might Yeah, I like to try to think ahead, like how we play this street and also how we're going to play the next street on most rivers, right? So, yeah, I guess it's probably 50-50. You can bet this or you can check. I wouldn't check raise, though. If I check, I'm going to be planning to call. What did you do?
I checked.
Okay. Does he bet again?
No, he checks back.
Okay, so at that point, before we talk about the river, you must have been feeling pretty good about your pair of aces, right?
Mm-hmm.
When he checks back, this is what I was thinking before, like if he had pocket jacks, and I know we didn't discuss this hand before, before we started recording today. So if I end up looking like an idiot, I'll accept that. It wouldn't be the first time here on the podcast. But for me, I feel like betting the turn, he'll call you with a pair of jacks. Mm-hmm. Or similar, right? Similar strength hands. Whereas he's not going to bet those hands. So then I think we need to bet pretty much every river for that reason. Because when we check again, he's just going to keep checking with hands like jacks or queens, and we're missing value at that point. So
100%.
Yeah. All right. So we both checked the turn. So we've controlled the sides of the pot, whether we meant to or not. And what came on the end?
I river trips. Ace of diamonds hits the river.
Okay. Now, all right. So this is a great card for us because, again, I'm kind of value targeting either worse ace X, which is very unlikely at this point, or a hand like pocket jacks that I keep sort of thinking is in the range that we might be able to, extract a little bit more value from. And it's so unlikely now that you actually have what you have. Now that your opponent, who's a thinking player, knows that you didn't 3-bet pre-flop and now sees these two aces come off on 4th and 5th Street, I think this is a great opportunity for us to overbet. I would go for an overbet bluff here and fully expect to get paid by jacks, queens, and kings. And really, any other hand that he has probably wasn't going to call any bet anyway. So I would go for full value, maybe. I mean, I think shoving is a little crazy, but maybe, we said there's like 100 in there.
So if you went with a pot or an overbet size, that would be a shove.
It is. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, I would just stick it in here and try to get paid by pocket jacks or whatever. What did you do?
I bet about half my remaining stack. I bet 150 into just under 300. So it was about a half pot size bet. Okay.
Nothing wrong with that. It's a more of a certain call from those kinds of hands. Look, I'm committed. So, I mean, if this guy shoves on us, whatever, I'm not folding. If you can beat 3 aces right now, it's just not my lucky day, whatever. I didn't put this much in to fold trips, right? So we're committed either way.
Oh, no, excuse me. I misread. I led for 100K. So I actually bet smaller.
Okay. So you bet about a quarter pot. Yeah, even still.
There's about, 270 in the middle? So it's more like third pot, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, all right. So then, yeah, I mean, we only started with 400. We put in enough that, yeah, I can't fold trips anyway. So that's why I think I prefer a bigger sizing. But anyway, what happened?
He called me very quickly. I tabled my hand, and he mucked and said that his kicker didn't play, but I didn't really believe him.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly possible. It's certainly possible, but it's unlikely. But yeah, that is part of our value targeting range, right? The whole point of not 3-betting with ace 10 is that you keep his worst ace X in there, right? Mm-hmm. So he c-bets the flop with maybe a wheel draw, right? Ace deuce or ace trey both have a wheel draw on the flop. Then he actually makes a pair on the turn, but he checks it back, which is weird. Yeah. That's why it's hard to believe. Yeah, why wouldn't he bet that ace on the turn?
You definitely check some of your worst aces. Maybe he would check back ace 6 or ace 7. That would make sense to me. Ace 5 even. But yeah, for whatever reason, when I'm taking hand histories, I leave live read notes and stuff, because if I'm going to be sharing the hand history later, I really want to give a full picture of how I reached my decision. And my eyes and ears are open on all 3 streets when I'm locked in. So I definitely made a note that I thought he was full of shit. And it was like a table dynamic-y thing where I was like, oh, okay, this guy feels dumb that I beat him and he feels the need to like make up a lie.
Yeah. I wonder whether you could have gotten more value there on that river. I feel like
how quickly he called, definitely.
Yeah. I always think to myself, whenever the board pairs, especially two runners like that, two running aces, it's just, he really can't fold kings or queens or jacks, right? And obviously, a worse ace is definitely, we're going to get paid every time. But yeah, I mean, I wonder if it's better to just be optimistic in these situations and just go really big and see if you can get him to, because you're polarized anyway. You either have an ace or you don't, right? You're never betting with like a 5 or something on the river, right? So it's because you're so polarized. I like a bigger sizing there, but yeah, nice hand, and that kind of give you a little more breathing room after that, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so for how much longer did you last in that tournament? Like how far into day 3 did you survive?
Almost to the end of the day. I think maybe like one level before we bagged. I got it in with, I was in the blinds. There was an early open and a call, and I shoved king queen off, and I don't like that. I regretted it later. I think I had 13 bigs, and it was the player and it was the position from which he opened that I think I was just a little too anxious trying to get chips,
Well, maybe Caitlin, but just from hearing it, it doesn't sound bad to me. Like I have no problem with that play either. For what it's worth, like that's a Clayton approved play with the king queen.
Yay. I called off an all in with king queen yesterday, and I was so happy to see he had king jack. I feel like that hardly ever happens. I was like, oh, Stowe, yeah, hell yeah. I think I was talking shit afterwards. I think I was like, some of you don't make that call. I was playing in a free roll, by the way. Yeah. So tell us about that. I saw that on your Instagram. You, as soon as you left Tunica, you rushed back to Austin, and you were at the lodge, and then you were playing in the free roll. So what is this? Is this one of those where like the local card room rewards its frequent flyers with a free roll every month or something? It's kind of a misnomer. It is in no way a free roll. The cheapest you can get in for, it's every Tuesday night at 7:15 p.m. Lodge Card Club in Round Rock. But it's $30, like admin fee, whatever, like gets you 10K chips. You can put down 105 to get like an extra 50 or 55K or something. And I kind of like, if my table's doing it, I'll do it, but if nobody else at my table is, then I'll wait to add on and cap off the end of registration. I think that's a better use of the money. So I think but I'm usually in for like 2 add-on buy-ins, whatever, like $200 plus the 30 and the dealer adds. So I'm usually in for about like $250, and the min cash is like $320, $325. But what's so cool about these free rolls is it regularly gets between like 5 and 8K for first place. So it's definitely a tournament that's worth my time. It's roughly getting between 20 and 25K in the prize pool for just like a Tuesday night free roll where it's very, very soft, I've made the final table twice this year already for this event. And I love it. It's so fun. There are a lot of like the more boisterous characters that play at the lodge, that are always like hooping and hollering and drinking. So it's one of my favorite things to do. And I have a lot of options for cash games on Tuesday that are very juicy and lovely as well. But I still sometimes will turn down those invites to go play this Tuesday free roll because it's fun, but it goes late. It usually ends at like 3 or 4 in the morning. And then that was the whole thing too, is like a lot of these nightlies at the lodge, they get chopped up a lot, 3, 5, 6 ways, and when we got to the final table, they started to talk about the ICM chops, and I decided that I'm no chop like right at the beginning of my career, and I've never wavered in that decision that I don't chop. This is what I do for work. I think I'm the better player at a lot of tables and spots that I'm going to be in. I have to, and even when I'm not, like, I think I always have a good shot and a good chance, and I want to close out the tournament and I want to win first place as often as I can, straight up. So it's always kind of awkward when I have to explain to the table when they're like, oh, let's just like take a look at the numbers of an ICM chop or whatever. And I'm like, no. I'll save y'all time. I've never chopped. I'm never gonna chop. I'm so sorry. And it's 3 a.m. and everyone would have gotten like $2K, having only been in for like $100 or $200. It's 3 a.m. They got work in the morning. They hated me. And then I went on a card rush and I got aces and kings and got like full doubles both times. It was dope.
It was dope.
It was dope.
You know, Caitlin, this brings me to a point. I'm really glad that I didn't end this episode without asking you about that. Because I have also, from the beginning of my career, resisted the urge to chop. You know, even in the World Series of Poker when they used to do sit and goes, right? I would never chop. Like I get heads up with somebody and they'd be like, "Oh, you just want to split? We each get a lammer or whatever." No, I want to win this. You know, I've been playing for 3 hours and I want to win. And you know, I guess for many players, the idea of going that far, and those were winner take all. Right, you either get all of it or nothing. You get nothing for second, everything for first, and so that's why the chop was a big part of the sit and go culture back when that was a thing. And yeah, they would get angry at me. They would like start teaming up against me. We get down to 3 or 4 players. Well, if we get rid of him, then we can chop it after he's gone, right? So it sounds like that might have been what was going on down there in Austin for you. How do you handle when the players are like, let's chop, and they really are putting a lot of pressure on you to do that? I mean, I know you didn't come here to make friends, reality TV star.
No, but in Austin, it's my home club. I love everybody. I want people to like me. Like it's And in Tunica, I think there was like with the ladies event that I just had to be like, sorry, I don't chop. Like I want to win today.
Yeah.
and I still believe that I can. So I have to say no chops. It's definitely like that part of you that wants to make everybody happy. The people pleasing part of you is like, but also I think if you're unwavering in a decision, it's sort of like the run it once or run it twice in cash. This is the same sort of, thing where if you're resolute in your decision and you're always consistent, I don't think people can really be mad at you because those are your beliefs. That's what you have decided. And if you don't waver in them and you're not like when I got 4-handed last night, we all had about like between 3 and 5 million, and like it would have made more sense to chop. But as long as you just like never waver in your decision, you always run it once or you always run it twice or you always chop, and then it's hard for people to get their feelings involved or make it like a personal thing about like, oh, you don't like me or you're a bitch. It's like, no, that's just how I see this.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's your philosophy. That's your approach. One time I was in a sit and go. I ended up heads up with Jamie Kerstetter. This is long before anyone knew even who she was, in our early days at the Borgata in New Jersey. And I was stuck and I was trying to get into the main event that they had there, which I think was just a 5K back then. It was a WPT, maybe like the Borgata Poker Open or whatever. And, she was clearly a better player than I was. And I had a slight chip lead and she was like, do you want to just chop? And I was like, well, and I kind of shrugged and I knew who she was and I didn't want her to be offended. She didn't really know me. And I was like, and she's like, she answered for me. She was like, oh, are you stuck? And I was like, yeah. And, if I win this, I'll be even. And so that kind of got me off the hook with her. Like, I didn't want her to be offended that I didn't want to chop with her. But I'm kind of like you. I'd rather just play it out. And I'm a big boy. I can handle getting second place for no money. I'm fine. I'm gambling anyway. That's the way I look at it. But I know a lot of players, they feel like if they get down to 3 or 4 handed at a sit and go, or, even just make any final table ever, they all deserve whatever. And, that's just not how it is. I mean, the prize structure is the prize structure. So it's nice to meet someone else who is as adamant about not chopping as I am.
Yeah. I don't know. I want to win.
It's the fun of it, like you want to be on the podium with the gold medal around your neck,
exactly.
Of course.
I want to carry the torch into Barcelona.
Well, I think it's Paris this summer, so get ready.
My bad.
All right, Caitlin. Well, this has been amazing. It's so good to catch up with you. And why don't you tell people where they can find you either online or in person?
Absolutely. You can find Instagram. I'm at Caitlin Comeskey, Caitlin Comeskey. I post daily updates. I probably post too much to stories, honestly. But if ever I make a deep run in a tournament, I'll share all my where I'm gonna be, what I'm doing, and also some just funny, nonsensical thoughts. I did my first Ask Me Anything on Instagram, which is really fun. I'm on Twitter, which is where you'll find a lot of my up-to-date videos and sketches. Also at Caitlin Comeskey, and then my YouTube channel for my personal sketches and vlogs is Caitlin from Texas Poker. I also stream online play on that channel sometimes, and then of course Ace Holes Pod with Nikki and Caitlin is my comedy poker podcast, and we're still growing that channel. It's new, but we've gotten Andrew Nemi, Brad Owen, Alan Keating to do some really fun sketches. So if you haven't already checked out Ace Holes, please hit us with a like and a subscribe, because we're still growing and we're still new and we need the support.
Well, I'm a huge fan of yours. I'm a huge fan of Ace Holes. I want to see you continue to thrive. I mean, you are talented, you are really fun to be around, and you're obviously very, very good at the game. And we just, poker, what poker needs and what my personal life needs is just more Caitlin type people around me and less bitter, angry, drinking coffee and talking trash. So I'm really happy that you're in this world with us. And thanks so much for being a second time guest here on the Tournament Poker Edge podcast.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me, and thanks for all the work you do.
Of course. And so for Caitlin Comeskey and for everyone here at Tournament Poker Edge, I'm Clayton Fletcher. Thank you so much for listening.
I wanna hold them like they do in Texas, please. Fold them, let them hit me, raise it, baby, stay with me. Log in intuition, play the cards with babes to start. And after she's been hooked, I'll play the one that's on her heart. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Can't read mine, no she can't read a mile. Hold the face, she's got to love nobody. Can't read mine, no she can't read a mile. Hold the face, she's got to love nobody. Poker face, poker face. Poker face, poker face. I wanna roll with her, a hard pair we will be. While little gambling is fun when you're with me. I love it. Russian roulette is not the same without a gun. And baby, when it's love, it's not rough, it isn't fun. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Can't read mine, no she can't read a mile. Hold the face, she's got to love nobody. Can't read mine, no she can't read a mile. Hold the face, she's got to love nobody. Poker face, poker face. Poker face, poker face. Can't read mine, no she can't read a mile.